Good morning, everyone, from the editorial board of Build Up Portal. For the ones who are attending a Build Up webinar for the first time, welcome. For our returning audience, thank you for renovating your interest. It is a pleasure to host today's webinar entitled Digitalization of the Building and Construction Sector, which is organized in collaboration with BIMCert project. I would like to invite you all to contribute and participate in this webinar. You can ask questions by typing in the box on the right side of the screen. They will be answered at the end after the presentations. You can also contribute to Build Up Portal. Build Up is a collaborative platform in the field of energy efficiency in buildings. It is continuously updated and it represents one of the key sources of information on the topic of energy efficiency. You can register and become a member of the community, and you can also upload news, events, present a case study and results from a project, and so on. I would like to invite you all to navigate the portal. In the Learn section, you will find all the podcasts of the past webinars, so it is possible to listen to all the previous presentations. Each month, Build Up selects a topic of the month to encourage the community to focus on one specific topic, and we publish at least an overview article about it. For example, the topic of the month of January is Digitalization of the Building and Construction Sector, and this is the context where BIMCert are making this presentation. Today's webinar will consider the role of BIM and digital construction. Our panelists will guide you through the BIMCert training platform and give you an introductory course to understand how it works. Once you register on the platform, you will be able to access the presentations and all the resources at any time. The agenda of the webinar is the following. You will have a first section in which BIMCert project is presented by Andrew Hamilton from Belfast Metropolitan College. In the following session, Andrew will also discuss what is BIM and digital construction. After these presentations, Barry McCauley from Technological Innovation in Dublin will present two sessions. The first one about digital skills accessing information through the cloud. The second one about digital skills accessing information through mobile devices. Now I would like to leave the floor to Andrew. So please, Andrew, we can start the session.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Good morning, everybody. As you can see, our agenda, as Julia just went over, is there in front of us. The presentation today we'll be utilizing our BIMCert platform. So BIMCert, what is BIMCert? BIMCert is a Horizon 2020 funded project that is seeking to develop a fully blended training platform to allow the support of the upskilling of construction workers from various levels across the sector throughout Europe. The aims of the project are to develop a more efficient and relevant training program to ensure that the concepts of sustainability and renewable energies can be suitably and practically integrated into the construction sector. It aims to provide new processes for workers to enter or catch up with the new trading technology, BIM and other digital technology enablers within the construction sector. The plan is to make it easier for construction companies to get their staff qualified, not just in the design, but also in the manufacture, construction and maintenance of their products that they provide to the sector. And throughout that, we're looking to improve efficiencies across the supply chain, better integration and collaboration between the various parties in the construction sector, and ultimately provide a bite-sized pathway to enable learner progression. The platform I'll take you through in a moment just to show you how you can register and our curriculum. We do have a video that is available. We'll not be playing that today, so I'm just going to progress now onto our curriculum. So you see our platform here, and it's using this PDF this morning. Apologies just while we open this up. So what I'm going to very briefly cover is how to register. We'll take a look at the curriculum approach and our bite-sized blended learning, and the question and answers I will leave to the very end of our total session this morning. So the BIMCert platform, We are using it, as I mentioned this morning, but following this session, you're welcome to go to our website and register to use the platform, and the information that you've seen today will be available. And if you register as a trainee as part of our trials, there are other modules that will be available for you as well. So QR code here, or the web address is energybimcert.eu. If you enter that, when you come to our main project website, it's under the outcomes section, and at the bottom of that there is the BIMCert training platform. When you complete that link, it takes you to our training platform front page. You'll need to register up in the top right hand corner, and when you register as a trainee, and you will get a confirmation email. We would suggest that you check your junk folder or your trash folder, because we have had some incidents where people's firewall security settings are sending the email to that location and they can't find it. And once you verify that, you return then to the main front page, trainee section, enter your username and the password that you've created. And then once you come in, you'll be into the main platform screen that we were looking at earlier there. The BIMCert curriculum, what we've been trying to do with the BIMCert curriculum, central to everything is the desire to increase the uptake of the use of digital tools such as BIM in the attempt to improve energy efficiency and achieve energy targets within the European context. BIM skills are for the whole supply chain. They're not just for the designers and the design section of the industry. We're wanting to ensure that there's better collaboration across all sectors, particularly in the supply chain, to reduce the amount of waste and help achieve the as-built energy targets that so often the designers and the clients are seeking. We have 3 pillars to underpin our curriculum. Obviously, building, the construction side of it, and the understanding of the detail and how it goes together. The information or the data, the model itself is only as good as the data that is entered into it and how that data is extracted and utilized. And most people, when they think of BIM, they simply think of the 3D modeling aspect. It is important, but without the other 2 pillars there, it cannot be utilized to its maximum return for efficiencies in terms of construction and energy. We've looked at, within the UK context, the RIBA plan of work and the various stages across the project lifecycle, and how at each stage BIM and digital tools can play an important part in ensuring the outcomes and successful completion of the project. It's about collaboration. It's about all of the parties being able to access, and in that we recognise that BIM is a journey for many people. And in that journey, we have broken it down into various strides. Stride 1 within our curriculum is assessing the learner in terms of their BIM readiness. Stride 2A looks at the fundamental skills that are required to use BIM, and primary within that is the need for digital skills, particularly if we're bringing this to a workforce where to date, the use of information, or the source of information, has been paper, a printout of a drawing, a printed document with a specification, handed to the contractor, subcontractor, and then they're asked to complete their job and their task. If we're now looking at that information being shared digitally or accessed digitally, we believe that the digital skills need to be developed at an early stage. The strides continue with 2A, 2B and 2C. So 2A looks at standalone units that are aimed at BIM novices. 2B takes that initial learning a little bit deeper with more bespoke, professional, distinct skills. And finally, 2C looks at a mixture of intermediate to advanced training levels. Unlike the traditional idea of the qualification being ultimately it is the end result, but what we've tried to do is break that ultimate qualification down into a series of bite sizes, and within each of those bite sizes it becomes a bit easier, we hope, for the learner to take on board the skills that are being presented. Our entry has been at the EQF level 3 and 4 at this stage, because it is that understanding and explanation of the main focuses around BIM that we're wanting to embed with our learners. Obviously, there's BIM maturity. You may or may not be aware of the various BIM levels where we talk about 2D obviously in drawings, 3D in terms of the model and the BIM model itself developing, but then you have your 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D in terms of time, cost and sustainability and other BIM maturities. We're trying to tie that in with the educational framework as well to make sure that the skills at the lower level in accessing the data and the information are developed, but at the upper level, those who have already achieved those skills can take their skills further and allow them employment mobility and transferability of those skills across the sector. Our bite-size approach, we're aiming to provide something in terms of micro-accreditation. Quite like this image in that it's the Pac-Man image. If you're a child of the 80s, you'll be familiar with this. The concept here, I suppose in one sense, is for some people, BIM and digitization is quite scary. When Pac-Man collects enough beads and gets the power, he can take those scary tasks on and ultimately defeat them. So we're trying to break down any myths or concerns that a learner may have. Some of these learners may be several years in the sector, and they have the real understanding of how construction works. They have an understanding of the processes, albeit in a traditional way, and we want to develop their skills in a digital way, and we want to give them the power that those skills can be acquired in a way that is a bite size that they can feel that they're able to manage and it doesn't become overpowering. Bit like another game, you may recall Tetris, where the object was to build and to complete various levels as you worked your way through the game. Each of the modules are different shapes, different sizes, different durations, different weightings, but put together they will give the complete curriculum that someone working within the construction in a digital setting using BIM and other digital tools will have the skills developed accordingly. It also offers a bit of bespoke pathway because each module, there is a pick and mix element that you could have. You could enroll in various modules. Some modules will be built upon by others and there'll be prerequisites. Some modules in a combination will give a qualification, but we recognize that not always is a qualification the important aspect, the need for training, and often training at point of source, say there's a new aspect being delivered in terms of a piece of information that's required on site that day. The bite-size element could provide that immediate training and immediate access to the training. So we've broken it down, we've looked at blended, and rather than just simply the learning outcome, we're working through from the assessment criteria and making those bite-size elements more achievable. I'm just going to very quickly run through. These are some of the qualifications that we have built upon, and you can see there that there is a progressive element where they work through, and those are then within the training plans that we have on our platform. So that's a bit of a background to BIMCert and what BIMCert is. As I say, you will be able to, when you come onto the platform, you can access, this will be your dashboard and this will be the available courses. So let's begin. What is digital construction? Why are we looking at digital construction? For many, this is a trend that we're starting to see across our various regions, and some people have tied it in with the fourth industrial revolution that's happening at the moment in terms of digital workflows and digital patterns. And ultimately, digital construction is looking at how we share the data and the information during the process of the building's construction. Digitization itself is converting something to a digital form, looking at how in this case, the information, it's not just the 3D model, it's the information and the data contained within that. So the materials that have been used to build, the routes and the pipeways and the various cable connections, where they're connecting from one light in a room to the main distribution board, where the power is coming from, where the water's coming from, all that sort of information that historically would have been handed over in a series of large files and operational manuals can now be handed over in a digital format that is easier to access and more accessible for the building owner and occupier and maintenance. It's looking at the life cycle aspect, so the information can be shared later amongst all parties, and it provides efficiencies in how that information is shared between those parties. Digital construction, a lot of the aspects that we're looking at here aren't new. They're building on traditional methods and means of building and construction that we've been using for years. It's just simply how the information is shared and how we collaborate together is the change. You appreciate I'm not going to read each of the sections here, we're just giving a summary, and when you register you can come back and read these in more detail. Within construction, there's all the fancy bits and pieces, I suppose, that everybody looks to whenever they think about digital construction. So the use of VR and augmented reality, goggles and glasses. It's great. Even today, we're using a digital platform to convey the message of digital construction here in terms of conference calls and so forth. But it is happening where designers are taking their clients into the building virtually before it's completed and allowing them to experience the room, whether that's a hospital where the nursing and theatre staff and surgical team can be brought into the building virtually to allow them to see the space that will be created, through to schools and other buildings. That is certainly becoming relatively commonplace in a lot of sectors at the moment. Drones and digital scanning is another area for inspection where it may be unsafe for to put a person into the building because of perhaps risk of collapse. A drone can be sent in to do a scan and carry out that inspection. We're looking at 3D printing for prototyping and manufacturing, and lots of other areas that in themselves are new to construction but aren't new and are being utilized in other sectors and other industries. One of the key aspects from a construction purpose or perspective would be the data. William Hayes, Dr. William Hayes, one of our BIMCert panel and team, is quoted here saying, data is hugely important, but it has to be used for the right purpose. We live in a very data-rich society, and the amount of data that is collected about us on a daily, just going about our daily activity, is increasing. That data can be embedded into the model and within the construction, and that data can then be shared through the rest of the building's life cycle. How are we sharing that information? Generally, that information in a digital world is being shared on the cloud, that virtual space that so many of us use but don't think twice about, that can share and can process and can complete tasks without the need for us to be sitting actually at a desk in a lot of cases. BIM we'll explain in a little bit more detail, but BIM fits into this, and that is building information modeling. The key aspect here is the information and the modeling, and how that allows all design team members, then the contractors, the clients, and the other parties to work within a virtual digital twin of the building prior to its physical construction. Mentioned already the VR and the virtual reality aspect of things, where we're able to experience a space before it's constructed. And that in itself, a lot of problems within buildings in terms of the model aim to be avoided before we reach site. When we reach site, it's too late, possibly for the changes, and that can result in costly delays or alterations to the project, again increasing the costs, wasting materials, and generally being inefficient. Why are we looking at digital construction in terms of enabling some efficiencies? Well, if we can plan better and we can design the process, the construction process, we will waste less, and that in turn will save energy. If we can look at enabling virtual collaboration, that will reduce the amount of physical meetings, therefore reducing the CO2 involved for travel, for example. If we can look at digital surveying and look at things within the digital surveying data that is gathered, such as infrared and thermal scanning, then within retrofit projects or alterations to existing buildings, we can detect current energy performance, identify areas of thermal weakness in the building fabric, and more specifically target new insulation materials going into that building. So digital construction provides a better, more efficient, joined-up way of all areas of the construction sector collaborating together. BIM itself, what is that? BIM is more than modeling. It stands for Building Information Modeling. Sometimes people will equally consider the aim to be management, because BIM is a process of creating and managing the information for the construction of the building throughout its entire life cycle. That will include various members of the teams and individuals, and BIMCert aims to upskill, as I've mentioned already, all those members within those teams and those individuals, from the workers on site to the designers to the clients to the building owners and operators at the end of the process. The BIM implementation, we have to start somewhere, and for some areas and some regions within Europe, there have been mandates. There have been other aspects of simply contractors realizing the benefit that BIM workflows can bring to their construction, and designers realizing the benefit it can bring to the design and the client. But we have what's known as the BIM maturity levels, and those BIM maturity levels provide a stepping stone and I suppose a way of contractors and designers and clients seeing how they are progressing along that BIM journey. For a lot of governments, BIM level 2 is or BIM stage 2 is the ultimate point of where they would like the sector to be, because that is where we're working with 3D models, data rich, and we're federating and sharing those models together for clash detection purposes and for extraction of the information in the data that we've mentioned previously. Let's go into very quickly cover some aspects on this. So this is an interactive PDF that we have, and the main thing I want to take a look at here is just the BIM and sustainability aspects that come with BIM. Ultimately, it's the energy saving and the energy saving potential. So some startling figures in terms of the amount of waste and demolition waste in England. And I was reading recently an article where BIM models are actually being used in a number of areas now to record and register the materials within the building. So the buildings are becoming material banks, so that when they're demolished, that material can be assessed for reuse rather than just simply ending up as landfill. 32% of landfill waste, so if we can start to cut the amount going to landfill, then obviously that's going to make a significant environmental impact. And big thing would be the emissions. We are all aware of the need for energy assessments and processes within the design stage where we're calculating the holistic energy consumption of the building. There is a gap between the design and the as-built, and often that as-built gap comes about as a result of the lack of information and the sharing of information. If we have a digital construction sector with the information readily available in the cloud, and all parties within the process skilled in how to access that material, then we should close the gap between what we're seeing designed and what we're seeing as being constructed at the end. So very quick brief run through there, I appreciate. You will have the opportunity at the end if you wish to ask any questions, and I'm just going to hand over now to one of my colleagues, Barry McCauley from Technical University Dublin, and he's going to take us through the use of cloud-based storage devices. Okay. Okay, Barry.
Yeah, thanks very much, Andrew. So I'm going to just bring us through one of the lessons that we have here. So this learning outcome will explain how mobile and cloud computing technologies can be applied to ensure data is actually transferred. So for the purpose of this learning outcome, the Autodesk 360 suite of software will be used to demonstrate how information can be exchanged. So before we understand how cloud-based storage and portable devices can access and exchange information, we need to have a look at this. So the digital model will be created in a discipline-specific software that has 3D modeling capabilities. There are a number of these packages available as illustrated below. We can see there's ArchiCAD, Revit, Graphisoft, and Bentley. So there are a number of different software 3D modeling available. For this example, we will use Autodesk Revit as it aligns to the Autodesk 360 suite of software. So even though this lesson we'll spend a good bit of time talking about this software, we need to know that there are other softwares available. So the first thing that we need to do once we have created our model is we need to upload it to the cloud. So when you sign into your Autodesk account, this syncs to the cloud server, and gives you access to the designated project collaboration space. This enables you to upload your model to the cloud. This option also enables you to download models from the cloud and work on a digital platform. The model will be uploaded into the designated folder within the common data environment, as we can see in here. This model can now be viewed within the common data environment, and project team members can now begin to review it. So as we can see, we will look at now an actual example of how this is done. So Andrew, if you could pause the video just there for a second. So what we've done with the BIMCert is that we've built in questions into the actual video as part of your assessment. So you're asked to stop and pause, and then these questions are put to you. So obviously, when you select the correct answer, it'll allow you to progress, but it'll also give you information and details about kind of helping you how to answer them. So in this case, all three are correct. So once again, as you can see in here, we sign in, we upload the model into the cloud, and then once we have it in the cloud, we can start using it on our cloud software or our mobile tablets and out on site. So let's have a look at how this is actually done. So this package here is called Autodesk Revit. This is one of the packages that we described there a minute ago. As I said before, there are numerous different packages, but the one that we've chosen to concentrate on is Autodesk Revit. What we have in here are a number of the capabilities associated with this package. So if anyone this package is actually available free on a 3-year student license if anyone's actually interested in going forward and signing from here. So what we need to do, as I'm doing here virtually, is we need to sign in to our Autodesk account. So once we sign into this account, what this will do, this will give us access then to our cloud. So the whole idea is that all the information and all our access rights are associated with our username. As you can see now that we're signed in, the next option that we need to do is we need to upload this model into the cloud. To do that, we go to the Collaborate tab. And in the Collaborate tab, which will be different for other softwares, we simply just go to the Collaborate function. The great thing about this is this enables us to also push the model up to the cloud, and it'll see anyone working on the model at the same time, any changes that have gone on, and they'll be able to sync that model and instantly download the changes. So hypothetically, everyone's working on the same model at the same time. So in this case, I'm choosing my BIM 360 document management and pressing OK. And this is just a name for common data environment. And you may have a number of different jobs going, so you select the correct one, and from there you select the correct file path you'd like to save. So it's nothing different to saving a Microsoft Word or a PDF document, but we're just doing this up into the cloud. And as we can see in here, the model's been pushed up into the cloud and it's syncing. And anyone that's working on this model at the same time will get a little notification saying that changes have been made to the model. So please collaborate with server so they can download and sync the model. So this is a lot better way of doing it virtually instead of sending by emails and requests and sending the file over in the drawings with markups. We can instantaneously have a group of different designers or construction managers working on the model. So at the moment, it's just pushing the model up and into the cloud. So the next stage that we need to do is we need to sign into our cloud platform. So this is where we go here. We have another question here, but we won't access it. As I said, there are a number of different questions built in. So here we go, and we sign into our platform. Which will bring us into what we have here. So first thing that we need to do is we need to select the correct file path. We have different options over in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the file path and where I saved the model, which is to do my work in progress. And here we can see the model that we just saved there a second ago. We can see the version, the size, the time it was last updated, and who it was updated by. So you have a complete traceability of this model. So it's easy to see who did what, when it was done, and who accessed it. By clicking in here, we can also see that we have different opportunities here to integrate with the model. We have AI, so through the insight, we have a project management tool. Design collaboration allows us to use it in and federate it, which means combine with other people's models. So to keep the lesson simple, we're not going to go into that, but there are numerous different options that you can use. We can view the material properties, so the model can be accessed on site through a model viewer, where any of the site team can interrogate the model elements to better understand important information, i.e. such as material installation, details, associated documentation, energy criteria. The image below shows the properties associated with a wall. This is a fantastic tool because it allows anyone out on site to access the model through their tablet, which we'll do in the next lesson, and they're able to interrogate the different objects in installation and take down from the cloud installation and instructions. And this will further then upskill people on site to understand what's the best installation process. This example illustrates a model uploaded into the common data environment. Anyone can access and view it in the cloud and click on the relevant objects within the model to learn about the properties. So in the image below, in the image above, the user is clicking on the door and viewing the door associated properties. So we can see the level, we can see the material when it was installed, spare parts, and we can also click then to access information external. The image below provides an understanding of some of the capabilities available to mark up drawings. So once we have a drawing open, we can mark it up, which we'll do now in a second. And by marking it up, we're able to start highlighting potential issues that we can red flag to the team and access immediately. And this is just a simple understanding how that's done. So just going into markup in a little bit more detail. The model can be marked up and note added to both 2D or 3D files. These markups can be kept private or shared with other team members. So here we have an example of some of the markup tools. And what we're doing is we can marking up an issue with the door, and then we can see that who's marked it up, when it was marked up, and we can email it to the required people in order to kind of generate the sign change. So let's go back to the model and look at this in a little bit more detail. So this model is opened up in the cloud server. And as we can see, it's pretty similar to what it looked like in its host software. So what we can do is we can walk through the model. So if you can imagine that if we had this out on a site with the design team or with the client, we can open up the model and we can begin to navigate and walk through this. So that's what we're going to do now. And we'll put on a third person, an avatar. And with the avatar, you can set it to a certain height, eye level. And that means that as you walk through the building, if a door is not matching the height of the avatar, they'll have to duck to go through it. So this is quite useful when you're walking through plant rooms because it enables the team to see if the pipes are at the right level and makes it more functional. As you see here, we can move up and down quite easily. And this can be easily done by anyone. Just walking through the model. And the idea is that we walk through the model and we're looking to interrogate objects, and we're also looking to find potential issues. So for example, what we'll do now is we'll interrogate and look at properties associated with this chair. So what we're going to do is going to click on the chair now in a second. And when we do that and click on the property buttons, we can see all the properties associated here with this chair. The type, the manufacturer, when it was assembled, spare parts, materials. Very important we can see sustainability elements associated with different objects in the model. For example, once again, we're just clicking on this door in here. And we're looking at the analytical properties such as heat transfer, thermal resistance, thermal mass, absorbance, roughness. So all of this can be associated. So this is all built into the model before you push up into the cloud. So all the hard work is done in the actual design software, and then once it's pushed up in the cloud, we can then access it as a team and start to find potential issues. So what we'll do now in a couple of more seconds is we're going to create a markup of a potential issue that this door may have. So as we see, we've accessed the markup tool on the left hand side. And the next stage then is to begin to mark it up. So to mark it up, we need to access the tools. And once we have our tools accessed, such as our markup tool here, we just draw a simple design around it. And then from here, we begin to add information. So we can add text, such as please review, the door, dimensions. We can change the text size, we can change how that's viewed, we can change where it's positioned. Once we're happy, we save the markup. And as we can see over here, the markup saved on the left-hand side. This markup, we can make it public, which means that everyone can see it, or we can email it to the whole team. So then anyone that comes into the cloud and that has access to it will open up the model and they'll instantly see this markup associated with it. So this is a quick way of doing markups. Instead of finding the issue out on site, going back to the office, maybe sending an email. And so we can see then here someone can come in and they can reply to the markup. You can add attachments. So they may want to add an image saying that this has been sorted and add an image, or maybe associated documentation. And once, as we can see in here, we're just publishing this out to the wider audience. And usually in this case, this markup may have 3 or 4 different editions as different people come in and give their comments and an overall solution is created. The great thing about the cloud and this way of monitoring information is that this is saved permanently. It's available for everyone. And we can use this then when we hand over the final model to the client, because all the information is actually stored within this and we have a traceable history of the object. We can generate RFIs, so these are requests for information. This can be done in the cloud through a web app on your mobile device. So once it's created, it will be emailed to the relevant team members. So returning to the model, we can see how this is done. So what we're doing here is that we're just navigating the model again. And this time, instead of selecting our markup tools, we're going to select our RFI tools. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, it's quite simple to access the different tools. So in this case, we select where the request for information is needed. And we're choosing the roof. And so the first thing we do is we need to give this a title. RFIs traditionally outside could take maybe a week to get responses to get information. So having this in the cloud and assigned to the correct people, we can instantly get access and information back. And it means that we can move on without having to wait a week or two. So we can pick a distribution list who we'd like to email this to. We can choose our reviewers. which are the people that we need sign off from. We can put a due date, which means that we can say we'll give it 2 days for an answer. And that status will then change as the RFI progresses from submitted to resolved. So when you look at this video, or you're interested in looking at this tutorial, there's a voiceover provided by myself on every one of the tutorials going through this process in a lot more detail. So please be aware of that. You can also assign issues. So issues are used by teams to identify and communicate areas of concern or improvement with the project document. Issues can be associated with documents created in the common data environment. So issues are similar to requests for information and markups, but each one of them is a little bit different. So in this case, we're going to generate an issue. So we're going to generate an issue here to do with the BAT. And with an issue, and where it differs from a request for information and a markup, is that we start to assign issues such as how this BAT needs to be signed off, checklists, quality assurance. So a number of templates will be preloaded into the software, and all they're doing is associating this then with a checklist, which means that workers out on site will come into the room, they'll open the model up that reflects the room, they'll click on the different objects within the model and see the different checklists and commissionings and design and quality and safety and punch lists that need to be checked and completed before this is signed off. And what this means is that this information is being inputted into the model and it's been stored there. So then once we hand the model over to the client, that they can come in and they can click on the bathtub and they're able to see all this information associated with this, as I said, the commission, the checklist, the safety files. And this enables to give them a completely workable asset. And with this asset, they're able to run the building more effectively because they're not running around looking for information, wondering who installed it, wondering where the warranties, because all this information is now stored digitally within the asset. So you can do a search in here of the different templates, and once you've chosen the one that you're satisfied with, you can then move on. So the first thing that you just need to do is just need to select where you want to place the issue, and then once that's done, it'll generate a tab. And return it back into the common data environment. We can see that when we opened up that model again, all this information is associated with it, and we're able to use it. And once again, there's different apps available, such as Insight, which will allow us artificial intelligence, design collaboration, which allowed us to bring different models together. Model collaboration allows us to do clash detection. So there are numerous of different things consistently evolving within the cloud. And ultimately, the goal is to move the whole work process up there. And that's what the likes of these companies such as Autodesk and that are trying to work towards. So that will bring us to the end of our lesson on cloud computing. Here are some common data environments outside of Autodesk available for projects, ProjectWise, Clearbox, Aconox. So if you did a Google search of construction common data environments, you could find up to 50, 60 quite easily. It's a aggressive market out there, and there are numerous different vendors now entering into it because building information modeling and digital construction is starting to get a strong foothold, and a number of different organizations are turning towards it. The next lesson will look at cloud computing in regards to how we can access and exchange information through our portable devices.
could just point out there, as Barry mentioned, as part of our training platform, there are various methods of assessment. So the learning is assessed on each of the modules, and in this particular one here, it would have been assessed throughout the video. So Barry, I'm just going to move to your next video. And this one is looking at the use of those mobile devices to access the information.
So this is video 2. So we, as Andrew explained, they're in bite-sized modules to make them easier for people to take. So what this one looks at, how we upload to the cloud, which we looked at there, how we access through the cloud, and then more importantly, how the model can be synced with associated mobile technology. This will enable the team members working on the site the opportunity to open the model and extract and input information. So what we're looking at now is how we take this model from the cloud and use it with our mobile devices and iPads out on site. So as similar, once you download the required app onto your mobile phone or iPad, you'll be required to then launch the designated app and sign in with your personalized user details. This will be the same as what you use to sign into your cloud account. You should then sync with the cloud to ensure that the most up-to-date models have been downloaded. So we have this, so it's quite similar to any way that you've used to sign in regards to iPads or apps. So you just sign in with your Autodesk account. This will recognize the different cloud platforms that you're associated with. And more importantly, you need to sync. And what we can already see over here, we have issues and checklists and equipment and tasks and library. So we've done this in the cloud, so we can do all of this workflow on our mobile technologies as well. So here we can see that we can walk through the model as well. So you can do a walk through the model and interrogate objects for information. So this can help better understand the required design intent. So if you think about having this out on the site and the job is being built or it's under construction, you can open the fully completed model there and actually walk through it with the team in order to interrogate to see is the work that has been completed matching up with the work. So you can virtually walk through the model while you're physically doing it at the same time, and you can interrogate objects and you can look at properties. So here's an example of how this has been done, and you can use a mobile tablet inside for real walkthroughs of the model to better understand and compare the final design, as well as to highlight potential errors. So this is an excellent way in order to track progress. And what's also done as well is that you can do a scan of the building and compare that then with the model. So the image below provides an understanding of some of the capabilities available to mark up the drawings or models. So what we looked at here is in the cloud, how we can mark it up in the cloud. So this part will look up how we can mark it up on the model or on our tablet. So this is quite simple to do. Some of the tools are detailed below. We have our markup tools. We can use the links, so we can add external links. We can have a measure tool, and when we have the show and hide, so we can hide different objects in the model. So there are a number of different options in here which are quite similar to what we had in the cloud. And so we can push this information. We can take down something with a markup, we can answer it and push it back up into the cloud. So your mobile tablet can be used to access the model and provide a detailed markup while on site. So here for an example, we have the interface of what it would look like on a iPad. With the iPad we're walking through, and what we're doing is we are creating our own markup and we are answering different markups. So it's quite simple to do, as can be seen here. And what we can see in different, we can see who answered a minute ago or how long it was answered. And that means then we can answer we can return answers to these or email them. And as we go along, we can mark up and take pictures and associate images and links with the different objects in the model. We can also assign issues to drawings in the model. So you can assign issues to items within the model and then search for issues to answer questions, change statuses, and comments and more. In this example, a PDF of the floor plan is open on your mobile tablet while in that room. A pin is dropped, which will enable you to generate an issue in respect to that room. Once an issue has been raised, then information can be assigned to and is shared with relevant people. So what we have in here is we have our iPad. So what we can do is we can read the item text. We can tap to put in a response. We can enter the comments. We can edit the issue. So as we've seen in the previous lesson how an issue is created up in the cloud, well, once we're out on site, we can access this information and as well as create additional issues. Your mobile tablet can be used to access the model and create or save issues while on site. So for example, we can see the pin is dropped. Once a pin is dropped, this will generate where the issue is to go. And then from there, we can choose the type, what company, the priority, the status, when it was created, as well as associating attachments. The image below illustrates how this issue will be viewed in the cloud web interface after being generated on your mobile tablet. So here you can search for issues, answer questions, change issue status, and comments, and more. We can also use the app on the iPad to assign important project instructions for team members. So you can schedule task reminders to remind project members to perform tasks within a specific project. So you're able to click on the date. Within that date, you're able to assign information to people or overall information that you want to hold assigned team. So instead of sending it all by emails, it's all available there and people know exactly what they have to do on that day. You can assign checklists to drawings in the model. So you can use checklists to populate quality assurance, quality control, safety, and commissioning checklists. So this is similar to the issues tool, but it goes into more details and offers more templates in regards to quality assurance. As with the issues options, once a checklist has been assigned to an object in the model, this can be shared in email with the relevant people. So once again, quite similar. And what you can also do in here is once you generate an issue, you can assign a checklist to that issue. So a lot of these different functions work together. So with markups, you can assign issues with markups. You can assign checklists to issues. So what we're really getting is a real quality assurance and a number of different gates that have to be passed. And it's a great way of tracking and recording data. The image below illustrates how the checklist will be viewed in the cloud web interface once generated on your mobile tablet. Here you can also search for checklists to answer questions, change checklist statuses, and add comments, and more. So this is how this would look back in the cloud. So once you've created the checklist, if we open this back in the cloud, this is how this would look. So we're starting to see the interface now between the cloud checklist and then how this would look on a mobile tablet. We can share and assign pictures, so we can view and share project photos across a team. And we can attach these photos to issues and checklists. So what we can do is we can easily take our photos of the object, such as what it do with a quality assurance or commissioning, and take a picture and associate that then. And that's stored and accessible for the whole team. We can assign information to the model. So you can select equipment within the model to assign and manage issues, checklist status, and equipment systems information such as HVAC and electrical. So what this means is that we can go into a room, and within that room, we will be able to see a potential object, so an asset. So with that asset, We could be standing beside the physical asset, and we can have the digital one open on the iPad. And what we can do then is we can start to add information and assign issues and checklists to that model. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to select the equipment in the model. So we can see once we select that, we're going to have a number of different opportunities to do different things, such as assign issues and checklists. So we can view the properties. In the properties, we can see the installation, the warranty, the term properties, and here then we can add an issue or a checklist. So what we're doing then is we are dropping in potential issues that we have with the model, commissioning, or doing markups. So this is also, once again, when the model is handed over to the client, it's a fantastic way of tracking information, and all of this information is then embedded into this virtual asset. And instead of at the end of the process looking for information that might have been lost, it's all stored as we go along. We can create reports to be shared with the team. So all this information, once it's uploaded, we can start generating reports based on everything. So this can capture project snapshots, create reports, viewed online or printed out as hard copies. It's an excellent way of viewing progress and understanding if you're going to reach or you are near your current targets. We can assign QR code. So a QR code is a machine readable code consisting of an array of black and white squares typically used for storing URLs or other information for reading by the camera or smartphone. So the QR code can lead the user to a mobile optimized landing page, corporate blog or news feed, product installation photos, contact details, links to company social media files. The options are really up to you and they're quite unlimited. So we'll have a look at now how this can be actually done out inside. So you may see when you're walking around your building QR codes associated with different assets. And the reason that we do this is that, for example, if something arrives on site or an asset arrives into a building, a QR code can be placed on it. What we can do then is we can use our app to scan that barcode, and then we can associate that with the actual asset that it represents in the model. What that means is that when your facilities manager is walking through the building thereafter, when it's open, he comes across that asset, he can open up their iPad, click on it, and you see all the associated information. We also have the option here for model revisions. So most cloud platforms will have version control where you can view the difference between a model. So this enables you to see markup difference between both models instead of trying to understand what change has been made in 2D plans. So sometimes when you have a 2D plan and then a revised plan comes in, it's quite difficult to understand where the changes are. With a model, it's very simple. You just compare the both models together and then you're able to see the differences. I've just provided a number of guide-safe learning videos here to help with further learning, or if you have any interest in going further. Videos on 360 Field, which is the cloud platform, Glue, and the review and markup tools. So this looks at the cloud platform, then how this integrates with the mobile technology, and then how this is integrated then with your iPad out on site. We've done this in a number of different lessons. So when you are using the BIMCert platform, we have a number of additional and extra curriculum in order to kind of assist you and help you in your learning. Andrew, I think the video's paused there, has it? So yeah, on the platform, a common template that we have for every module is we have additional learnings such as videos, education materials, links, presentations, documentations. So we're quite strong on helping the learner in regards to their journey and ensuring that they have resources to move forward. But just to recap on the mobile and cloud technologies, you can help to understand design intent better visualization. You can interrogate an object and material breakdown, i.e. access different properties. generate issues and checklists. You can have a better quality control, and you can also link assets to data, such as the QR codes. So especially, I'd like to think now by the time we finish these two presentations, you can see the huge benefit that there is in regards to digital construction and creating a model in a 3D environment to upload it to the cloud and then to use it on your mobile technologies. So it's a seamless flow of information, and it's just a lot more structured, but also enables you to keep a track. There are a number of different mobile apps available. A lot of them are free. So, and a lot of them will have generic or test models available to download. So here are a number of different mobile apps available if you'd like to download. Most of these are integrated with their software packages. So for example, if you Autodesk 360 Mobile, if you sync that with your username, you can download your models. But a lot of them are free, and also a lot of them have models that you can open and interrogate just to get used to the platform and working within them and how to access the information. So thanks very much, and I hope you enjoyed the two presentations, and if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Just as Barry finishes up there, and before we hand back over to Julia, just remind you that there are a number of courses available on our BIMCert platform. This is the full course list, and a number of these have been part of our trials as part of our project. And certainly, if you wish to follow the registration procedures we outlined at the start, we'd be happy to enroll you on some of these platforms should you wish to develop your skills further. Okay, thank you very much.
So thank you for these presentations, and so we can start the Q&A. So we have some questions from the audience. Let's read the first one. So how do you see, just one thing. So Tony Borkovic from Energy Institute Polvan, Croatia also joins the Q&A. So the first question, how do you see the evolution and potential of open BIM platforms and tools in regard to closed system and software like Autodesk and Nemetschek, and in regard to BIMCert mission? Anyone can answer, of course.
I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, with open BIM, I know looking in Ireland, you obviously have IFC is beginning to get a lot of traction, and the whole idea with BIM is that it's supposed to be about collaboration, and I mean the whole open BIM is the open kind of the poster child for that in regards to I mean like we'd like to see a lot more of it. I mean a lot of the platforms I put up there, some of the CDs I mentioned are open, they are free, they are accessible. In my opinion, where do I see it going? I don't know, because with Autodesk and a lot of the companies, I mean, I know in Ireland, for example, IFC isn't routinely practices because there are still some issues with data drops and with data drop between the different softwares. But I also think that it's a market out there, and a lot of companies want you to pay the subscription, and a lot of information. I've used IFC plenty of times. I've used the open platforms. I think they're fantastic. I'd love to see it more routinely involved, but I believe then if that happens, then the software companies are going to start losing a lot of money, and that's going to be a considerable issue. So I think I don't see it getting a lot of traction, especially in Ireland. I can't talk about other environments, but over here, I know there's a lot of stipulations. Now you have to use Autodesk software, or you have to use what the client requests. And then obviously, if a lot of them kind of go, well, look, I mean, if you want to use Autodesk Revit, then you're going to, obviously use Navisworks for the review, and then you kind of get locked into a software provider. So, and which is the antithesis of Open BIM. So, but to answer your question, I love the idea of it. I think IFC is fantastic. There's a load of really fantastic common data environments that are really regulated towards Open BIM, but I just don't see for the bigger contracts it engaging unless there's some kind of pilot study force showing, I suppose, that there are no concerns in regards to data being dropped using IFC and Open BIM and so forth.
Okay, thank you. I will continue with the second question. How to deal with the risk of having models overcharged with data in the cloud, with information that is used by a limited number of the team members or only at project stage?
Well, yeah. How do I think that comes back down to there's a whole process, like what we're concentrating here quite heavily, which the BIMCert platform does go into, is that there's a complete process in place in order to manage such issues as that. So, for example, I'm sure you're all aware that there's the ISO standard. Before that, there was the PAS 1192, and they're quite similar in that respect. So to ensure that there's no data being overloaded into the cloud, there are a number of different process stops that you need to put in place before you even begin. So, for example, what you would have is an organization information requirements, asset information requirements, and then more importantly, you'd have a exchange information requirement, and that's what dictate and put into place then exactly what the client wants from the project. And within that, they'll specify data drops. So, for example, they say for this is what we require for data drop 1, and within data drop 1, they'll state the information that they expect and that they require and that they need. And if this is done correctly, well, then that should reduce I suppose, the possibility of the cloud becoming, just overawed with too much information. So it's kind of quite important that you specify the information through these documents, because if you go forward without using these types of information and processes, you're going to face that, and it's going to be a nightmare. So it's absolutely paramount that any modeling is wrapped around these processes.
I think Barry, if you agree as well, it's also fair that we've come across a number of cases where that's why we're looking at the issue of the supply chain and not just the contracting side and the design side of it, because it's an understanding across all parties of the information that is required within the various elements or components that make up and constitute the model, and the validity of that data, because we could have a data overload, and it's the need and the client's end use of that data and making sure that that's being achieved and tailored to.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So third question. Besides medium-sized and large-scale projects, construction and building sector is composed by a large number also of small projects and small medium enterprises. How do you see BIM and BIMCert evolution applying or not to this segment?
Great question. They're all great questions in all fairness. The SME market makes up 98%, maybe 99% of the construction industry. And that's why BIMCert received the funding and it got the traction it is, because what we are trying to do is create information and modules and training that's just in time, that's condensed, and that offers selective training in areas for the SME community. In regards to the bigger picture of that, I know if you look at the likes of Singapore, they have stuff like a technology fund, or they use it where there was a certain amount made available for training and technology and upskilling, and that enabled the likes of the SMEs and so forth to, I suppose, come on board and have the finances to do so. In Ireland, a lot of the bigger contractors are upskilling the SMEs. They're reaching down into their supply chain, and they're taking them on board and upskilling them, and that means then hopefully for the next project they are in a better position, and they're not so much hand holding. So there is, I think, the bigger picture for SMEs is that there needs to be funding, and there needs to be definitely there needs to be funding available, but they also need to see the want and the drive and the need to adopt these processes. And I think BIMCert is a fabulous tool, and it's an opportunity for SMEs to dip into this, especially now that the training is free for a limited amount of time, and see, is this something that they might potentially want to explore further. And this is kind of why more platforms such as this need to exist, because it's offering a training platform that's realistic and it's targeted at what they'll actually be using this software and processes for.
Just to add, Barry, one of the presentations that I didn't include on the what is BIM section, because of just time, we have a BIM ready element, and there are a number of myths as we would describe them, and one of the myths that we have on there is that BIM is only for those big companies. It's also only for those projects where in areas where the governments have mandated the use of BIM, that's only where it's to be applied. But the truth is that big or small, all companies independent of size can benefit from what we've discussed here today, both in terms of yes, the modeling as a designer, but also the whole approach and the methodologies. As part of our trials, we have had a number of contractors engage in the learning that we've been doing, and one of those just recently was a small contractor who sees the benefit in just literally sharing of information. So rather than having paper copies and duplicate copies of drawings and specifications and documents going between his pricing department to his subcontractors and his staff, they can share that information digitally, as Barry has demonstrated through his presentations this morning, and that will bring efficiency to his company and to how he works. We've also anecdotal evidence through some of our workshops where people are saying that when they adopt BIM, yes, there's a steep learning curve at the start, and that's why we have sought with BIMCert to make the learning bite-sized. But when those processes start to take hold within the organization, they do rapidly reap the benefits.
Thank you. We have another question. From your experience and partners outside the European Union, are there also outside the European Union, not just also the European Union as well, are there countries well ahead others in the process of incorporating BIM? What has been key to their success? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. Whoever asked that question, if they'd like to email me as well at barry.mccauley@tw.ie. I did a global BIM study back in 2017. It's a report, it's published. I can send that on to you. And we looked at different jurisdictions, and we've seen that there are numerous different jurisdictions now in the process of either adopting BIM or implementing it. And we kind of looked at what the key themes and the key were that generated BIM program or BIM platform. And some of the things that we found was obviously that a government mandate was quite helpful. With that, there has to be an implementation body, and through the implementation body, you have to have funding. And there are a number of different pillars. You have to address your procurements, your standards, your processes, your training. So each one of these pillars need particular areas, and I suppose a plan over a 3 or 4 year process. So the likes of the UK, the Norwegian, Scandinavian countries, they're definitely, especially Scandinavia, I think they're probably the strongest, because they have adapted all of this, and even with their IFC, they're using more open BIM platforms. They're getting to that level now, but they've started well above the curve. And a lot of these organisations and a lot of countries, it's kind of a lot came from the government backing as well, and they've got the money, and the implementation, and these organisations are able to have time to create this. If you look at the UK, there's the digital. It's in Cambridge, the new BIM program where it's been held, but they have a whole centre, and they are releasing consistent reports and consistent frameworks. And I think having entities like that pushing it is vital. Also in Germany, they've planned banning. In France, they have their own organisation as well. So across the globe, you can see that, I think it's quite important if you want to have a plan and implement it and be successful. You need an organisation backed and funded by the government. Also look at Scottish Future Trust in Scotland, they're doing great work. You need organisations like that that consistently push it and drive it and champions.
If
I think
if I may add just to Barry's answer, in BIMCert, on BIMCert webpage, we have actually one success story of a small medium enterprise implementing BIM without government backing, without mandate, but a company which actually found the interest in BIM implementation and still consider they are just starting the process. So there is plenty of evidence on BIM usability for SMEs.
Yeah, no, I was just asking the question from a macro perspective from countries and countries. I wasn't answering it from the an organizational perspective, just from a macro what countries are leading.
But I think as well, Barry, if you wish to correct me if I stray wrongly here, I think regardless of whether there's a government mandate in place within each of the companies and the organisations within the sector, there's obviously some difficulties in terms of the level that the change comes, and there's always difficulties when change comes within any established process. So what we've seen is where the change is coming from the top down or from the bottom up. Obviously there will be different reactions to that change, and as with any change that happens, there's always concerns and fears that the skills will not be there or the skills will not be able to be developed. So that is why within our BIMCert curriculum we have taken the bite-sized elements and we have worked to try to address training across each of those sectors within the industry, from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top. Okay.
Yep, thank you. Another question. From the phases of building's life cycle, where do you see more potential benefits of BIM use? In the planning and design phase, in the management?
Do you want to start as again, Barry, or don't mean?
I don't mind. I suppose we're all answering the question. Where do I see? I suppose there's I see the potential in the planning and design stage, because you can obviously eliminate a number of different mistakes through clash detection and logistics and planning, and I suppose eliminating potential errors, with the client sustainability analysis. So you can, obviously you can create the building 50, 60 times, you can get sustainability analysis, match each one of them. So, by obviously the correct selection and having the right data there in front of you, and being able to make the most informed decision is a huge help. So, but I obviously see in my perspective, I think the greatest opportunity is in the running of the building, because if you look at it, it's a 1 in 5 figure. So it's 20% of the life cycle costs to design and build it, and then it's 80% then thereafter to run it. So obviously, if you impact and make better choices, design is going to be easier to run, and it's going to be less of a overall cost. However, I've worked as a facilities manager before, and it's very important to have the data there at your hand. So it's very difficult when you go into a building and you don't have the correct information or you don't have the correct data, and by that impacts then how you make business decisions. So by having a model that is obviously handed over to you at the end of the process, and then you can integrate that model with whatever facilities management software or business software you choose, you will have, as we can see through the 2 presentations that we did, you can have access to all that collected data, all that information, and then that can be then used in order to help the facilities management process, but not only that, help the overall business goal and process of the building, and that will definitely have a huge impact in reducing that costs that are in the 80% bracket.
And I think, I suppose the point I was going to make, Barry, was that it is that level of, it's information. When people are better informed about how to look after something. So for example, you buy a car and the car comes with a manual, and it's within that manual it gives you the service information, the type of oils, the tire pressures, etc. Within the built environment, we're not providing that same level of information necessarily to the building users, whether it be a domestic user through to a large corporate user. And BIM it comes back to the central part of BIM is the I, is the information. BIM is simply a way of using that information at the various stages. And there's a danger in some respects that because designers leap on it as a visualization tool, that it can only be seen as being visualization. Contractors recently have started to take the programming and the cost aspects that the software can bring through to that. And as there's a wider acceptance and uptake across the industry, we'll start to see better use of the facilities management and a better understanding of the information that they require at their stage. And just as I mentioned during the initial presentation, we're looking now, some Dutch architects are looking at materials passports, so the Madaster database, where they're actually looking at what's there in the building come the demolition stage, so that the buildings become a bank of materials, that as the Earth's resources become more finite and more sought after, then we'll start to be able to mine the buildings as well. So it really will encompass all stages.
Thank you. I've got another question. For the barcode issue, how would raw construction materials like a wall of precast concrete could be labeled? It looks like a very interesting tool for techniques, but is it as useful in, for example, the foundation phase of the works?
Yeah, actually, Andrew, do you want to take that, because I know you're doing something similar with the kind of the panels that are coming out onto site and kind of helping that the installation phase.
One of our industry partners on the project is a precast manufacturer, and if you look at the precast manufacturing processes and the quality assurance aspects attached to that, every item that leaves their yard has a barcode. And as I was saying in the previous question there, that barcode is a way of storing and sharing the information. So the information that we're talking about in terms of the addition of the barcode can include the concrete mix, the concrete test, cube test results, and that can include the photographs in terms of the condition of the item when it left the manufacturer, and photographs when it arrived on site. So really, I suppose, Barry, if I'm in the right track here, the amount of information that we can store with that barcode is endless. It's the validity and the purpose of that information is where we need to be mindful. There are a number of projects that I'm aware of where they're looking at using the asset tagging, for want of a better term, to quantify and sign off that elements have actually been included within the building. So if the built model indicates a particular location for a fire stop, can that be asset tagged to indicate that the fire stop has been provided, and therefore the photograph of the construction stage could be attached to that. So it's kind of like almost, I suppose, a digital clerk of works, for want of a better term, monitoring the construction as it progresses. I don't know if you have anything, Barry, you want to add to that?
No. That's 100%. Like, yeah, it's. I know, for example, that in some concrete testing, they have not kind of QR codes, but they have a kind of a lasers, or sorry, I can't think of the name of them. I should be able to think of them, but they have different. I know in the concrete pour, for example, recently they've put in different kind of things where they're able to monitor them, not QR codes. I should know the name of what they are. Tags, sorry, kind of different tags into the concrete.
tags.
Yeah, IR, that's it. That's it. Sorry, those tags. They're able to kind of then use that to interrogate the concrete pour, how it's setting, how it's curing, the strength, the information. So, you know, I mean, it's not just QR codes. We could use those tags on the different objects, and then we're also looking at sensors and digital twins and how this is all starting to kind of become a bigger picture. So while the QR codes are you know, they can be used for anything really, like, you know, I mean, it's completely up to yourself. There are many different more innovations ahead of the QR codes that can do or target, you know, what you're asking in your question.
All right, thank you. So one last question. What are BIMCert perspectives after H2020 calendar?
The BIMCerts, what's going to happen to the BIMCert after 2020, is it?
Sorry?
Yes, I think that was the question. What next for BIMCert?
Yeah, indeed.
Do you want to go ahead there, Barry? You were.
No, you fire ahead. You take that one.
Grand, okay. Well, obviously our project is closing at the end of this month, and we have our closing conference in Belfast. If anybody is interested or nearby, they're welcome to attend. You can find the details on our project website. But we are looking at the next stage and looking at the viability of BIMCert as a platform in its own right. We have, as we mentioned earlier at the introduction, developed a number of qualifications that have got pathways across our European partners. We're looking at continuous professional development, accreditation, and we're also looking in terms of the BIMCert as its own element and its own organization. So we do have hopes for beyond the Horizon 2020, and certainly the experience and the feedback we've received from our trials and from engagement with industry is that they find it something that is meeting a need. It's the bite-size element and breaking it down into short modules, and also the online and the blended delivery approach. We've had examples of various, whether it be webinars or people just doing pop-ups and face-to-face, digital face-to-face sessions, have found that very beneficial. So it's that mix. Barry, have I missed anything, or Tony, in terms of our dissemination plan or continuation plan?
Excuse me, I just lost sound for a second, so I thank you for answering the question.
No problem.
Because yes, BIMCert has plenty of opportunities and very large drive from all the partners to continue using the BIMCert platform, which is very strong, very well developed platform for BIM training in each partner institution which was and still is involved in the project. And of course, we hope to be able to expand the reach of our audience through our networks and specialized training, BIM related, which we already perform at our institutions.
All right, so this is all. I would like to thank you for your presentation and for introducing us to the BIMCert platform. And also thank you to all the people who joined the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.